Welcome to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with people in hip-hop culture, based out of New England. Leeds. All right. I'm going to try this again. Welcome to everybody to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast. Got a very special guest today. Artist, promoter, DJ, podcast host, Vegan, Motivate Merren. I know him as Mark Merren, but he is here today, and I've known this gentleman for a good time. Good amount of time. How you been, bro?
I've been well, man. I've been well. Just doggy paddling, man. Keeping my head above the water, brother.
True, dude. I can totally relate to doggy paddling. We are fellow promoters. That's how we know each other. But before that, you were obviously have a bit of a history in the city. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yep.
Dorchester native, Massachusetts.
Yes, man.
What section?
I grew up in like Phil's Corner area. But I always tell people I grew up in what I call it the triangle, because I grew up in the middle of Phil's Corner, Four Corners, and Codman Square. So like we navigated that. Like me and my friends growing up, that was, those three hoods was ours. You know what I'm saying? We used to run around crazy.
Yeah. Cousin Stiz is Fields Corner from Fields Corner.
Yep.
Acrobatic is Codman Square. What was the other section?
Yep, and Four Corners.
Four Corners. I know.
Four Corners is like Almighty RSO. That's kind of where the ground level is for that crew, and Common. All parts of Dorchester, but definitely Four Corners is a huge part of their legacy.
Guru from Gangstar had that line. I used to hang at Four Corners.
Yeah.
Talk about Four Corners back then, because you said it's the history and the legacy, because I don't know much about it. I'd like to know your input on it. What exactly is Four Corners? Why do they call it Four Corners, and talk about growing up there and what it was like?
They call it Four Corners based off the, like the intersection where it's at, like the intersection of Bowdoin Street and Washington Street. It's Four Corners, like the way that where it's situated and the way that it looks. But growing up in that area, I mean, like especially like late 80s, early 90s, it was our for growing up in Dorchester, that was one of the areas where you saw the essence of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the best way to put it. You saw street culture, you know what I'm saying? You saw, we played ball a lot when we were kids. So, we'd go up that way to, go to Claiborne Park to play ball. And, it was just that street energy, music, sports, and good food and community. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it all started.
Is it different now?
No, I think it's still the same. I think that area, like specifically Four Corners is still like untapped. It hasn't been gentrified out yet. You know what I'm saying? So it still feels pretty much the same when you go over there, and it kind of looks pretty much the same as, when I grew up. Definitely a few things may have changed in terms of businesses, but it's pretty much the same. A lot of homegrown businesses. The church that I grew up going to is still there. So a lot of the same people are in the community as well. So yeah, it's pretty much the same, and you get the same feel. Like I love going back around the way where I grew up. My parents still live around there, so I love it because it helps recenter me, man. I refocus that way.
I lived not too far from Fields Corner, over in Pope's Hill.
Okay.
And I used to go to Fields Corner all the time, and I felt like that area was kind of how you described it. It was still a lot of mom and pop shops, and it just didn't really change much.
Yeah.
Over the years, would you feel that's the same?
Yeah.
Fair to say.
Yeah, the same thing for Phil. I mean, Phil's Corner is starting to change a little bit, but they have a strong Vietnamese community presence in Phil's Corner, which was always there. But now it's like, now they've, pretty much taken over everything in that area, especially right by the station, on down to the Dorchester House and stuff like that, which is dope. You know what I'm saying? I grew up with a lot of Vietnamese homies too.
Yeah. there's some good food over there. I've had a couple things. I can't name all the restaurants and
you definitely
all
get
the
some
different
good pho. Get some good pho. There's a spot called F.O.G right
Yeah.
by the Dorchester house. They're really good.
F.O.G, then there's like would you say faux quad, faux
I get them confused because they're like a block away from each other.
Yeah, they're literally next to each other.
Yeah.
They're right there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, which one am I going to? What's the difference?
Exactly. And probably not. Shit, knowing that it's probably the same family and all that shit.
I had some type of drink the other day. It was Vietnamese. It was like, I forget the name of it. It was all basil and coconut water, and it had this ice thing in the middle of it. It's delicious, man. I forget the name of it. Do you know where Sweet Sip is over there? Sweet Sip. I forget the road. I think it's on the Ponset going into Fields Corner. Is that right? The Ponset?
Yeah. Okay. Now I haven't seen it yet, but I'll definitely check for it.
Yeah. So
when you remember the name of it, let me know, because that sounds like some shit that I would drink.
Yo, you would like it. It like it's all coconut natural base and stuff. It's delicious, naturally sweetened. It was just like excellent. And I had never been in there before.
Okay.
So Dorchester, great place. Lived there for 10 years myself, Savin Hill, Pope's Hill. So when did the music come into play for you?
Music came into play early, music was always just the catalyst, you know what I'm saying? Like growing up in the house that I grew up in, my dad was just a heavy music collector, a lot of records in the house. And, he played music himself, he played a little bit of trumpet when he was a kid. And then by the time I came around, he was, starting to mess with the guitar. So I always heard him playing music and playing guitar, and, and it grabbed me early. My favorite thing to do would be to sift through his records and play his records. And that's when I knew that it was different for me, because the way I heard the music and the way, I wanted to know who did it. I'm reading credits, and I was always, very keen on that. And I always wanted certain parts of the beat. Like I understood the break before knowing, what hip hop was. Like I always knew, like, I like that part, So that's where it started. And then growing up in, in my family, I was always like heavy into dancing as a kid. And, one of my older cousins snatched me up to do a talent show, like just to dance. Dance groups were popular in the late 80s, early 90s in Boston. Like you rap, but definitely dancing was a heavy part of it. And that was like around 92. So I was 10 years old. But I was like, popular amongst my family for being like a good dancer. So he snatched me up to do this talent show at Boston Latin School, which was a big deal back then too. That used to be a big talent show. And that's where it started for me. That's when I started performing. That's how I met Acrobatic, man. I've known Acrobatic since I was a kid, performing at talent shows, man. Like he's known me, he's watched me grow up. He's a little bit older, but at one point in time, once I started with that group, we used to rehearse at the same place in South Boston. And that's how I met Act. But yeah, that's how I started, man. 10 years old. We had a group called LSD. I won't tell you what it stood for.
Come on. We gotta talk about the first names here. The first names are so great.
I ain't gonna tell you. I'm gonna just say the name of the group was LSD. And it was me, my cousin Jamil, and my two homies, Rodell and Jacory, man. One dude still rhymes out of that group as Boss City HD is what he calls himself now. But shout out to my homie Korj. Of course, shout out to my big cousin Jamil, who snatched me up, man. Who, I always give him that credit, man. It was him that, put the battery in my back to actually take it serious and as a performer.
Your dad was big into music, and I truly believe that music is hereditary.
Yeah.
I come from a family of music as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And shout out Acrobatic, as Staple, you mentioned him, Staple, for those don't know, Staple MC in the Boston community.
Yo, Act he's been just good forever. You know what I mean? Like, all,
yeah.
Like if I was 10, I don't know, I ain't gonna age you, Act. I don't know. If I was 10, he was probably like 17 or something like that, But always good, man. Always this. He's the same person, man. Like in terms of just like ability, he could always freestyle his ass off and just, you know, social commentary, but still style and substance. You know, that good merger of style and substance. Always had that, man. I look at him. I look up to him like a big brother in the Boston music scene.
Yeah, when I first started going to shows in Middle East, he was opening up on all the big shows. Mm-hmm. This is before I was a promoter, and he was just such a presence on the stage. You know what I mean? Like he was just, like you said, natural to freestyle, to rap his ass off, presence, great lyrics, great music. I mean, such a he was on the forefront of the Boston music scene in the late 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah, definitely got to work closely with him over the years. We need to do some shit now, man. But yeah, Dorchester shit, man. Dorchester energy, man.
That's the name of the album. Dorchester shit. Motivate Merren, acrobatic Dorchester shit. Nothing but Dorchester relatives.
Oh, let's go.
Vietnamese producers. Right. So, your first rap name, how I came to find out, was your first rap name Crispus Attucks? Is that what it was?
That is correct. In essence, that is correct. Like when I first started, it wasn't. It was just, I was just Little Mark or whatever. Like whatever, your first name is always some bullshit. I don't even really remember. But yeah, Crispus Attucks was when I started coming into my own, as an MC, and that would be like around 95, 94, 95. And shout out to Clinton Sparks, got to big him up. We had a crew called Compound Entertainment, and the name of our group was Boston Massacre at first, and then we shortened it to Massacre. So I ran with the name Crispus Attucks, who we all know, most of us know the story of Crispus Attucks. He was the first to his death is, it's like a martyr death, right? The Boston Massacre, the events that happened there, started the revolution, right? The American Revolution. So I ran with that name. Yeah.
Yeah, because I came across that because you did a joint with my man Al J, who was rapping under Algebra. You guys had a song, and I remember seeing Crispus Attucks going, "Who the heck is that?"
Yep.
Years later, I found out that was you. I had no idea for years.
A lot of people don't, because it's not something, it's not something that, I'm always about, it's about what I'm doing now. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of some people like to, because we were doing a lot of big things, during that era. We had a good run during that time, but, I never wanted to rest on, what I was doing before, so it was always just about, moving forward. So a lot of people don't know. A lot of people are always surprised, to find out like, oh shit, nah, I fuck with that. Or I had your vinyl, or, it's dope.
Talk about working with Clinton back then, because obviously Clinton became a huge successful, industry mogul pretty much, mm-hmm. DJ turned mogul.
Yep.
You were working with him when he's probably just you guys were both pretty young at that time, I would imagine, right?
Well,
how did that relationship even happen, and where did it go, and what was it like working with Clinton?
Dope. I'll say this before I get into the history. I'll always say this. I knew that he would be successful because of his drive. He always had a different level of drive. Right. Like it was like maniacal. You know what I'm saying? Like he's one of those people. Like he's determined, and I, he sacrificed a lot. So I always like big him up, man, because I got to see it, from ground level. But how we met was we had the same manager at one point. So we were working, with this management company, local manager, and Clinton had a group called Unedited. So it was him and two of his homies that he grew up with. And, they all rhymed, but it was like, it was about like the choreography too, like the way that they moved in unison, like they danced as well. Yep. A lot of people don't know that Clinton was like, an artist, like he was rapping and, dancing and shit. And, but he was always trying to produce. He started making beats, and he was already DJing a little bit as well. Like that, you can tell like that was what his focus was. But he put together the group, and he kind of was the one that put together all the shit, like all the music and everything. So that's how we connected. We had the same manager, and then we both split with the manager. The guy started doing something else. He kind of stopped fucking with music, and we just decided to click up. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of natural. We're like, yo, you ain't doing it. Fuck it. Let's get together. Let's start some shit. It was all Clinton. Like, yo, let's start our own, entertainment company. We came up with Compound Entertainment and just hit the ground running. You know what I'm saying? We just started recording exclusively with him. And that's how I actually started getting into production, was through that experience. I already had the interest. I already had ideas of what I wanted to do, but he had the equipment. So like a lot of the first like beats that I made was on Clinton's ASR 10, you know what I'm saying? And but yeah, that's how it started, man. We just clicked, and he respected our lyrical ability and just wanted to produce us, So that's how.
Were you like one of the first? Were you like the first group or first person act he was kind of working with?
Yeah,
sounds like it was.
Definitely. Wow. I mean, he was working with random people. You work with random people, but nothing ever really sticks. You know what I'm saying? Right. So we were the first like group of people that he was working with consistently like that.
Taking it serious.
Yeah. And then, Ack used to come through the studio back then too. We used to work with Ack. We used to do stuff with Ack, like when he first started doing the mixtapes. So many people came through, but we definitely worked exclusively with Clinton. And then, years later, Iadonna came around as well and worked with him as well. But nah, man, I always knew, man, that he would get to where he's at right now, because he was super determined, man, and was always about that life, man. So salute to him. He stands. We're still cool. You know what I'm saying?
Cool. That's good.
Yeah, we still have a good. We don't talk obviously as much, right? But right. I can reach out to him. You know what I'm saying? I have his handle, and when we see each other, it's all love.
That's good. Yeah, I found out about Clinton Sparks with my man Peter Parker, who I lived with when I came to Boston in like 2001 or 2002, and his mixtapes were incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? And he was bagging them out. I was making mixtapes at the time. I couldn't even keep move at his pace.
That's what I'm saying.
And then he started the whole, was it Mix Unit? What was the name of his website?
Yep,
that thing was like, was pumping out mixtapes all over. So it got shut down by the feds. But
yeah. I mean, the time is not like I tell people, like that's why it's good to, when you get something going, like when you build any type of momentum, keep it going, because momentum is very fleeting. But also you can catch something at the right time, and he caught the internet at the right time. Like the time that he started going crazy with the mixtape, the internet started kind of booming. So he's there like at ground level to catch some shit like that. And regardless of if they stepped in, that shit made him rich. So, you know what I'm saying? So salute to him, man. Much love to him, man.
Yeah, that's what's up. So when did you decide to change your name and go a different route?
I would say like around I don't know, maybe like 04, 05 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't actively doing music for a while. I just started, by that time, because by that time, I had been doing music since seriously since a kid, right? Like even through my first experience, I had signed a record deal, you know what I'm saying? That fell through. So I had a lot of experiences with music that kind of like in terms of the industry that turned me off, you know what I'm saying? So I just started living for a while, still recording, doing things here and there. But for a while, I wasn't actively pursuing, a career in music. Then that
did you find, let me just stop you right there. So did you find that you were like kind of resentful at the industry? Like you were kind of like, fuck the industry, or like,
definitely
like, this shit sucks? Like, were you kind of like that?
Definitely. I mean, what I realized was that that I I was actually, it was two things. I was actually kind of relieved that things didn't pan out industry-wise, because at the age that I was like, yo, that shit would have swallowed me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you have to be like a, you know, like a real, you got to have tough skin. You know what I'm saying? You really have to have real tough skin, and you kind of have to be like cutthroat in a lot of ways, like in some ways to navigate the industry, the music industry. It's just a dirty game. And,
why do you say that? Why do you say you have to be cutthroat? You have to, like, it's a dirty game. What makes you feel that way?
Well, I say that because, you know, just experiences. I think, like, this is what I'll say. This is where I was going with it. What I realize is that you can create your own lane. Like, you don't have to play the game, you know, the game that everybody, you know, aspires to play, right? Like the big industry game, whatever you want to call it. You know, there's different lanes in whatever genre of music that you're doing. But as a kid, you think, I want to be on the main stage, right? Like, and to play that game is a lot of dishonesty. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no honor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no, it's all game. You know what I'm saying? It's not genuine. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Some things are not real. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the metrics are not real. You're just playing games. You can grease some palms. You can, you know, there's a lot of things that I've seen, you know what I'm saying, to make it happen. And that's fine, you know, if you want to play the game, but it just wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I realized that, look, I could do this however I want to do it, and I could determine my success. But I definitely knew that I wasn't cut out to be, you know, like in the game like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't that wasn't for me. That's not even how I was raised, you know?
Yeah, you know, and back then too, without social media, there was kind of like you had to go through these channels. It was more like that, where you had to play this game.
Yep.
Shake these hands and go through these gatekeepers and all this other stuff. And it's not like that these days, but back then it was more of that. So yeah, it was frustrating if to anybody who was like, this really sucks, I don't want to do this. And it kind of, and for people with the drive and the like a Clinton Sparks, who could just bust down the doors that way, he had that ability, whereas not everybody has that superpower. You know what
exactly. I'm saying? And he carved out his own lane.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
He became a successful brand.
Exactly. He didn't become a successful rapper.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he became something else. And that's what I learned. That's what I'm saying. I learned that part of it. But in terms of being an artist, it can make you lose your integrity. You know, it can make you think, I have to do this to be a popular artist. And once I started feeling like that, I'm like, nah, I can't. That's not me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm feeling like I have to make a record a certain way, or, you know, or I have to play this game. You know, that's horrible as an artist.
Well, I guess that's the difference between playing the rap game or the music industry versus just making music, period. Right? Like, that's the balance between the two. Like, if you do want to play the rap game, you have to kind of go play those rules, you know what I mean? And do what those things do. But like I said, I think there's more balance coming these days with people creating their own brands through social media and going direct to consumer, whereas going through the major labels and needing all that to be something. You know, and the downside is you have to do all your artist development, which can be challenging and expensive.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's a good time to be in the music business, I think. You know, you don't make as much money in the beginning, but you know, you can really create something on your own, and you've done that.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure.
So you changed the name to Mark Merren?
Yeah, so I went
real name
to my real name. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Which was good, you know, which was it made sense, you know, like that's what it was all about. It's just like, it was part of that, like, yeah, like, you know, I'm gonna be myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here to be some, you know, rap character, really, you know, like that's
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
What I like is that, the point I was actually trying to go back to with you were like kind of BS at the rap game and kind of mad that you had to, play by these stupid rules. And you didn't really want to do that, but you still didn't quit. You know what I mean? A lot of people, myself included a couple of times, we've been like, screw this shit, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that. But I was so into music that I could never really do that. It was just like engraved in me, so I had to stick with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a gift and a curse in a way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can't focus on what's bad about it. If music is in you, you still need to create, whether you're on top of the game or you're in the bottom or you're in the middle. Like, you should never quit if you love doing it, just because certain parts suck. And I unfortunately, I see a lot of artists with a lot of ability and the talent do that because they can't be at the top of the heap. You know what I mean?
And you got to remember what you do it for.
Right.
Like if that's what you really was doing it for, then okay, then, fuck it, then quit. Right. Like,
right.
If you were just trying to be, the biggest thing in the music industry, but yeah, you have to really remember what you do it for and really find your audience, man, and fuck with the people that fuck with you. Like, it sounds cliche, but it's so freeing. And ultimately, you can have like financial success too. You can like make a living, you know what I'm saying? And what's better than that, man? Making a living off of doing what you love to do, regardless of if it's millions or a couple thousand, but guaranteed you work that 9-to-5 job, you only coming home with a couple thousand, right? So like, shit, if you're able to make that doing what you love to do, I mean, you're a success in my opinion. Yeah.
And you'll be a better, if you can, if you can do what you love to do for a living, you'll be successful. Not everybody can, unfortunately, that have talent, but if you can find a good balance, if you can't do it, you'll be just as successful anyway.
Yeah.
So when did you decide you wanted to be a promoter, though? You're a rapper, you all these years, and then all of a sudden you're like, I want to be a promoter, because that's, as a fellow promoter, I don't know about you, but everybody was talking me out of doing it in the beginning. They were like, no way, don't do this. This is a terrible business plan.
Yeah, I think people did say that to me. I mean, for me, I was saying this the other day. I never, even to this day, I don't really consider myself to be a promoter. I think I did it out of necessity. Like I started based off of trying to fill a void that I saw, even specifically for myself. It was like, okay, I'm doing music again. Who's gonna book me? You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck it, I'm gonna book myself. Like, that's really what the mentality was, But beyond that, though, me and my friends always threw parties, Like, so I had the experience, you know what I'm saying, from my teenage years up through college years and stuff. We always threw parties, like, just through like dope events, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was just something that we were good at, and we had a good network of people as teenagers and stuff. So we always threw parties and shit. So I had a little bit of experience going into it. And even right before I started doing hip hop showcases and stuff, I started throwing parties a little more consistently again, to make money. And so, I did have the experience, but in terms of the showcase thing, yeah, it was out of necessity, man. I was paying attention to what was going on in the scene at the time. And you kind of had it cornered, man. I mean, the only shit that I saw was your shit, and which was fine, you know what I'm saying? But it was just like, all right, that's dope. I'll definitely connect with him at some point. That's dope. But yeah, like, how can I make some shit happen on my own? You know what I mean? So that's how it started. Yeah, that's how it started.
Was it what was the name of the promotions company? Because you had a few different names, so I'll make sure I get it right.
No, so it's still all the same. Like, so the main company is Authentic Lifestyle.
Authentic Lifestyle. Is that what you were doing it? That was the promotions company?
Yeah, so the promotions company is still Authentic Lifestyle to this day, but under that umbrella, we did a showcase called Branded Authentic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And I still do that as well. Like, that's my main, showcase series, which I've always had a vision for that to be like a festival type thing. That was always the vision. So one day I'm gonna do it, man. But that's a lot of work.
Well, yes, it is. Talk about some of the acts you booked.
Whew, over the years, man. All these
I know
years.
It's hard. When everybody asks me, I don't
even know where to start, man. I guess
just name out a couple ones that come to mind.
I mean, of course, man. I'll start with the legends. I'll start with the acrobatics. The Rex, F.O.G, Terminology, Joyner Lucas, Dutch Rebel, Latrell James. Everybody, man.
That's Boston. You were booking also national acts. I mean, you booked Sky Zoo, Elzai.
Sky Zoo, Elzai, Fred the Godson, rest in peace. Right, his last show before he passed away too.
Yep.
Who else? I did
Shay Noir.
Yeah, Shay Noir did her a couple times. Elder Sensei.
Yeah.
I did Brother J from X Clan.
Nice. And let's not forget, we got 38 Special this Sunday. You booked Middle East Downstairs.
Yes.
Another big one.
That's a big one. But yeah, man, I definitely, my focus has always been, the city, Boston regional artists for sure. Freeway was another dope artist that I brought to. That was like one of my favorite shows that I've done. So yeah, we brought a few people through over the years.
One of the bigger events I remember, well, not bigger, but consistent that you did was the Motivate Mondays over at church.
Yeah.
Now you were making magic out of a Monday night. If any promoter knows how difficult a Monday night is to get going on a weekly basis. Yeah. How long did you have that thing running for?
So we had it consistently running for at church for like almost 5 years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, all you promoters out there are thinking how difficult keeping a Monday night going and a 21 plus venue in Boston. That is impressive. For 5 years, local showcase predominantly. I tried doing a local showcase for like a couple months. It failed. This is not an easy thing to do.
It's not easy, but but it filled a void. I think, that's when we talked about it earlier, is the timing. I think the timing was right. And it was, the right group of artists, like the right group of talent. Like, when you think about, for instance, some of the people I named, like people like Latrell James and Dutch Rebel, who are, vets in the game, locally at this point, regionally at this point.
Right.
That was when they were building their resume up. So it was perfect timing, like where these serious artists, where it was there's like a pool of like real, like serious, shout out to Mo Pope, still go, like artists who really take the craft seriously, and that are consistent. It was a ground level for them. It was a platform for them to kind of, go get to where they at now. I take credit and pride in that. Like I help provide a platform for a lot of artists that are doing their thing to this day. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
Oh,
and church was a dope spot. It's too bad it's not there anymore because we could really use it. To be honest.
Oh man, I wish I had the money at the. If I had I was trying to figure it out, bro. I was trying to see if I could get some people to help invest, but
that's a tough business.
Yeah, but the time.
Well, they also had the problem with church was there was a venue surrounded by expensive condos, and they had that neighbor that complained. And once you jump into that world of complaining neighbors and noise, it's hard, man. You're going to get that's why the location of a venue is so challenging, because you can't really, it's hard to be around residential.
Yeah.
Especially when they own it. When they rent it, it's just apartments like the Middle East was.
Yeah.
They can move out if they don't like it, but when you own it, it's a different ball game, man. You know what I mean?
Nah, man, that was a beautiful venue, man. Rest in peace.
It was,
man.
We need more of those.
Yo, and
he's that size.
Yeah, we need 250 to 350 cap venues. We need about 5 of those right now. Like for real.
Too expensive to do in Boston.
Yeah. And then
Rent's too high.
And then we see what's happening. All the big guys, got the big venues, So
yeah, I mean, Don Law, stronghold on the industry. I mean, he started out in the 60s. I mean, before it was even a game, or 70s, wherever he started. But now you got AEG in here, who's massive billionaire, investors, and
so
just the little guys like us. It's just too hard to compete with that. When we're using our own money. It's just too hard.
You just said a word, man. That's what I talk to people about that all the time. And that's why I said, that's why I say, like, I'd never considered myself a promoter, like, because I've made so many dumb, mistakes along the way,
Yeah, me too.
So many bumps, not too many, but enough to, where it's like, where I was just like, damn, like that, yeah, man. When it's your own bread, sometimes I backed out of shit last minute, all that shit, because I'm like, fuck that. I can't take this L, But it's part of the game, man. You learn that it's part of the game. You got to take those lumps. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the main thing that I've learned, and why I'm a better businessman now. And then in terms of how I treat people and just making sure I take care of people, so that way you can do business again. It's a marathon for real. So when you do take a loss, you got to look at it, from the bigger picture, from the big scheme of things, whether it's for the year or for the 5 years, But it took me a while to learn that, It took me, me bumping my head a couple times to look at it that way.
Yeah, you got to look at the long game.
Yeah, it's
like you can't look at the short term, because you're gonna lose on shows, you're gonna win on shows. You go by the year, you know what I mean? But like I said, nowadays it's just too hard. Too hard to pull off. After COVID, I was like, I'm done. I might help someone promote their show, but as far as being a talent buyer myself, no, can't. It's not. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Same here. I feel the same. I pick my spots. I still do it, but I just pick my spots. Like I feel like we, both of us, we built brands that we can pop out when we feel like it, and there's a reputation that precedes us, and we can get support. We know a lot of people, so now we can do whatever we want to do. So I pick my spots, man. That's why we doing the 38 special.
Yeah. Well, this other spot you picked, you started a few other things, right? We got the Beat Club.
Yes.
The Beat Club. Now what is that? That's like a producer showcase, or is that a competition?
Correct. So it started out it's a beat battle. So it's all under the umbrella of the Stew Showcase. The Stew Showcase is a interactive beat battle event.
Okay, so the Stew is the beat battle. The Beat Club is the podcast. Is that what
podcast?
It is? Gotcha. Exactly. Sorry about that.
So that's how it started. We started with the Stew, and we've been doing that for many years now. I think we're about to bring that back, and the pandemic kind of stopped us, from moving around, because we had already started like touring with it. So we're bringing that back in summer of 23. Look out for that in July. We'll be bringing that back. But it started with the Stew Showcase, which is a beat battle event. And then we figured like how we can reach more people is through the podcast platform. Like how can we connect with producers from around the world? Because people would see the event and want to tap in, but it's like, shit, we can't come to Boston because we were only doing it in Boston. And we were like, yo, there's people really paying attention to us. We can reach more people through a podcast platform. So we started the podcast. We've been doing the podcast since like late 2016. And yeah, man, we get music submissions from producers all over the globe. We play a game on the show called Keep It or Cut It. The beats that we keep, we put together like on a mix, and we usually drop it, on the streaming platforms. And, it's just a developmental platform for producers. We get like a lot of like up and coming producers really just trying to get their shit heard. And we do have some of the more experienced guys, people that got good placements and stuff like that too. But it's just about the energy in terms of like supporting one another and helping people get better. And we've got to witness quite a few producers develop and become dope names and actually work with dope artists, So that's been very rewarding as well, man. And, you know, we wanted to make sure to do something for the producer community, because, you know, they're the most important piece to the puzzle when you're talking about hip hop music, man. If the beat ain't knocking.
You know, I have this conversation all the time. I always tell rappers, like, you are in a marriage with the beat.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 relationship.
It really is.
Like, I feel like one of the big issues when, you know, everything went independent and, you know, rappers had to come up with their own budgets and stuff like that. They did the first thing they skimped on was buying good beats. You know what I mean?
What they do is just not pay the producer.
or not pay the producer, but like that is so crucial. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the
there's
most.
A lot of there's like a lot of great rappers out there that pick trash beats, and I'm not talking about new. I'm talking about old school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like one of their biggest problems. Why they're not staying where they should be is because they're picking bad beats.
Yeah, it's the most integral part of the music. It's the music. You know what I'm saying? It's the music. Like, you know,
it is. You know, like, that's the biggest investment you could go in as a rapper. Yeah. You know, and sometimes rappers be like, "Yo, why I'm paying for beats? If it's worth it, pay for it." You know, that's all I can say.
And or you can barter, right? Like like in terms of, that's why it's important to find. It's not about who's popping all the time. Find out who's next, and that person will invest their time into you. You know what I mean? And y'all can split the back end, you know, without having to drop anything on the front end. You know, so that's what it's about. Like, you know, like that's why we started it, because we were tired of people saying, people would be like, "Yo, there's no dope producers like locally," and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? There's mad producers out here. So it was to kind of shut those people up, because it would come up in conversation like, "Yeah, you know, like trying to get beats with such and such. And I'm like, you're trying to get a beat from an established producer. You're going to drop all of that bread when you can get somebody from around the way that's like just as dope and sometimes better. You know, like, you got to do your research." So that's what it was all about.
I also want to talk about the difference between a producer and a beat maker.
Yes.
Because I think this is an important thing to bring up, because a beat maker just makes the beat.
Correct.
It's dope. Sends it to the artist. The artist goes in the studio, does his thing with it. They may mix it down, whatever.
Yep.
He might do a little post-production, but not really. A producer, generally in hip hop, makes the beat and then also works with the artist, produces the song, probably might engineer it, you know, depending on how good they are.
With the engineer, or just work side by side with the engineer.
Work side by side in there. And I think it's important to clarify between those two, because, you know, like when you go outside of hip hop, a producer, he might not even pick up an instrument.
Yep.
So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I mean, they can be one and the same, you know, so there are some people who are beat makers that are producers, you know, that do both, you know, like a Dr. Dre or Timbaland or Pharrell. These guys, archetype, you know, guys, you know, definitely the archetypes, you know, guys that actually, you know how to use the machines and put shit together, play instruments, etc. But yeah, the production part, like you said, is, you know, the package, like how it's going to be presented, you know, the arrangement, you know, like a lot of that is definitely missing in traditional hip hop music. I feel like, you know, sometimes, you know, people just want to do raw shit, right? Beats and rhymes, and that's dope. You know, we respect that. But some of the more polished records we've heard in hip hop, you know, I always think Dre first and foremost. Like, I think he revolutionized it in hip hop for us. Like, when you heard the way that the Chronic was sequenced, and, you know, the way instruments were moved around, you know, the skits, and like, that's a production. That's when you're talking about a producer, you know? So yeah, there's a clear distinction. And, you know, we know a lot of guys that do both, for sure. You know, even, you know, that support the platform. We fuck with a lot of people that actually do both. And I consider myself someone that does both, right? Like, I make beats But at the same time, when I'm putting together my projects, I'm in the production seat for sure. Like I'm executive producing my project, even when it's beats from other people. But absolutely. I make beats as well myself. So yeah, it's an important component to the process.
Yeah. You know, I'm more like an executive producer when I make my compilations. Yeah. Like I'll work with, you know, my last one, Worker Among Workers, I work with Archetype, did 90% of it, you know, and, you know, I help pick the beats, but, you know, he'd have the skeleton of the beat. And then, you know, a lot of the rappers I work with were out of state. So, you know, they send in their Pro Tools or, you know, send in their vocals and stuff. But the biggest part with me was the post-production.
Yeah.
So like after they recorded it, what Arc would do with the beat and sequencing and the mixing after was like, it was like putting a high gloss on the track. Anyone that's not getting that out of their song, I feel like you're missing something. If your beat maker or your engineer can't do post-production, that's the next level for me. To me, yeah. That's what takes, like you said, takes the song up to like another level. Mm-hmm. And you know, some people don't have that. They don't have the way to get that. But I would suggest that any, you know, any rapper that doesn't have that in their process, I would recommend looking into that.
Definitely.
It's so much more out of it.
Yeah, it's so important. It like sometimes it not only can it take a song to the next level, but it can also inspire more creativity too. Like you end up hearing something where you're like, oh shit, like, you know, it might turn into something else, you know? So shout out to the
you know, maybe like in the process of that, you add another instrument to this or that, a sound effect. It's just like, man, that process, if you're missing out on that, it's a beautiful process.
I tell people all the time, like they have the stems out there for like, you know, for Michael Jackson shit. Like one day I was listening to the stems for I think, was it Rock With You? I listened to a few of them, but you realize, you're like, yo, I mean, Quincy Jones is a fucking animal, because just to know, like there was so many tracks, like there's like all these strings, to know everything sounded good to me. You know, I'm like, all this shit sounds good. You know what I'm saying? Like leave all of that shit. But to know how to strip it down to get the groove, like, is genius, man. It's like they could have very well just had all of this shit, all this noise in the fucking music. You know what I'm saying? And it would definitely not have had the same impact if you heard it that way. You know?
Yeah, that was probably pretty basic for him to do Michael Jackson, because he came from the whole jazz orchestra era, mixing that down and working with bebop and Frank Sinatra,
doing movie scores and stuff.
20,
like
30 piece bands, orchestras, and mixing that and sequencing that. I mean, man, that's it with the old technology. You know, like no Pro Tools, no digital.
I'm from the real tape era. For sure.
you would have came in on the end of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for that. I mean, like for most of like a good chunk, like Pro Tools didn't really come into play until early 2001. But yeah, we switched to we started fucking with like ADAT in like 97 or something like that.
First show I promoted, Royce the 5'9" wanted a DAT machine.
Yeah.
First live show.
Yep.
My first and last time ever renting one of those. I remember calling up Static, being like, where do I even get one of these? Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't know, call Daddy's, call whatever. I can't believe he's using this, but that's what he wanted.
Yeah, a lot of people did their show tracks via DAT. They would just have the whole shit just run straight through. Yeah,
one and done. It was a one and done. I never got asked about it ever again. What do you also you're a DJ as well, right? A man of all trades, jack of all trades. Are you spitting mostly dance hall? Is that what I saw?
Well,
I have the dance hall thing.
I do a lot of dance hall events, so we got
popular dance music.
Yeah, exactly. Dance hall lounge is you know, under the umbrella of Authentic Lifestyle. It's like an experience that we've been creating for I've been doing that event since 2000, around the same time, like 2011. So it's, you know, just 100% Caribbean party vibes. Then it's a party series that we've just been doing. At first we were doing it. I used to do it every week at a spot called, I started doing it at a spot called Slancha in South Boston. Now it's right where 6 West is, you know, like where the Cambria Hotel is at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much, on that same block. I think it's the same spot. That's where we started, and then we moved around over the years. But the last home we had for a long time was the Milky Way before they shut down.
Are they shut down again, or
so they
moved?
So they moved to the brewery.
Yeah, got that.
And they were there, and then during the pandemic they closed, and they were supposed to open back up and connect with another restaurant, but they didn't. The other restaurant ended up just taking over the space themselves. So it's at that space that they had is called the Haven JP, which used to be on Perkins Street in JP. So yeah, Milky Way is gone as we know it, but the Haven is a nice venue. It's real nice in there, but they weren't trying to bring us back. So
it ain't that nice.
But yeah. So we were at Milky Way for about 4 years.
I used to love Milky Way when it was the original location.
The original one by the Rotary, where Seed is. Awesome. Now it's a dispensary.
Yeah, it was empty forever. The big, before the dispensary, no one was going in there. But I loved that venue, man. That was such a cool venue.
Definitely. So yeah, so we do that. But in terms of me spinning, man, I'm an open format DJ. I play a little bit of everything. You know, what I love to play is, 90s hip hop and R&B, man. That's like my favorite shit to play. You know,
the best. It's the best.
But yeah, I play a little bit of everything. My family is from Honduras. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's I could spin Latin pretty well. Definitely a lot of Caribbean vibes, but yeah, my favorite shit is 90s hip hop, R&B, especially R&B too. Like classic R&B, I can go crazy on that.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Of what?
Classic R&B you play.
That I'll play. I'll play Roy Ayers Running Away, and then go into Earth, Wind and Fire, Brazilian Rhyme, and then go into Saturday Love, or go into Parliament Funkadelic, Not Just Knee Deep, or you know what I'm saying? Like
nice.
That's my energy, you know what I'm saying? Like I love that type of shit.
So you dropped a new album though, with all this busy man of you dropped a new album, Fear of Greatness, F.O.G.
Yep.
What's the inspiration behind that title? I know what it means, but
yeah,
what's it mean to you?
Well, the whole me calling myself Motivate Merren, right? Like the first couple of projects that I put out solo were called Motivate, right? And I think it just falls under the same theme. I just feel like what we were talking about, even when we were talking about like in terms of like artists and what stops them from, getting to their full potential, you know what I'm saying, or seeing their full potential. And it's that lack of motivation, man. It's that lack of self-motivation, that lack of self-love a lot of times too. You know what I'm saying? Like not truly believing in yourself, letting other people's opinions of you shape your opinion of yourself. You have to really believe and motivate yourself to be successful. And that's where the Motivate theme always came from. Like it was all like, that's something that I started back when it was Compound. The first single that our group put out was called Motivate. and it just always, it was something that I came up with it, because that's what it was all about. It's like, yo, let's motivate. That's just the language we were using. And fast forward, named the project Motivate 1, Motivate 2. And then people just started calling me Motivate. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just became a natural thing for people. Yeah. People see me, they just be like, Motivate. It's Motivate Mondays. Your albums are Motivate, whatever. And it just stuck, where I was like, nah, that's just a fly name too. I've never, I haven't had a alias in a while. So it's like, fuck it. Let me roll with Motivate Merren. But the fear of greatness, I think it just falls on in the same theme. Like I wasn't going to call the project Motivate 3 or anything. Like my name is Motivate now. But
Yeah.
but what I think people, what holds a lot of us back is the fear of greatness, because with greatness comes a lot of responsibility. When you're going for greatness and you're aiming for greatness and you're great, it comes with a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of work that you have to put in, and are you willing to put in that work? And that's what it's about to me. You know what I'm saying? Like getting over that fear of greatness. Don't be afraid to be great. Put the work in and be great. Be who you're supposed to be. Be the person that, you were put on this earth to be. We're all great. You know what I'm saying? I think we're all great at something, but a lot of us don't see it. A lot of us let the world get in the way, and you can't do that, man. And it's a fear. I think I literally look at it as a fear, because it's easier to be complacent. It's much easier to blame somebody else for why you're not where you want to be. It's the easier route. People are afraid to fucking put the work in, because of everything that comes. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take hard work. It takes hard work to get to know yourself sometimes too, to get to that place where you really know yourself. It takes a lot of work. You got to do the work. You hear that all the time, but you do. And a lot of people run from that shit, and run to what? Drugs. You know what I'm saying? Addiction, like a lot of these things come from that fear of being great, that fear of, or running from something that, that you need to run towards, so that's what it's about.
Fear is a very deadly thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
it's
I mean?
A healthy thing too. There's nothing wrong.
Be.
Yeah,
it can be. It also is behind a lot of problems.
Yes. Yeah.
Because a lot of people are, there's healthy fears like don't walk too close to the street, don't jump off a building, but fear, doubt, insecurity,
yes,
fear what other people may think about your music, fear what people might think of you, fear, like, that that will hold you back and it'll keep you in a shell, self-centered fear in particular. And we all struggle with it. You know what I mean? We all, it's all there. But the reality is, like, it's an illusion sometimes. You know what I mean? It's what I call it, the devil fucking with your head.
That's a good way to put it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't do this because no one's gonna like it. You know what I mean? Or like you shouldn't be who you are because the society, is going to think a certain way about you. Like that's all holding you back, and what is being great anyway, great is just being you to the best of your ability, right? The result is not what dictates you being great. That's the other mistake people make. If I work my ass off, I give it you, or you work your ass off, give it 110%. And the product is what the product is. And let's say for whatever reason, the result isn't massive, but it's good. That's still great.
That's great.
That's greater than me not trying.
Yep.
So it's really just about putting in the work in and don't be afraid of it with hard work, because that's what really it's going to take. It's going to take the hard work.
Yep.
The dedication, the motivation. What I like about your thing is it's not just motivating you, you've motivated others.
Yeah.
Your hard work and your dedication is motivating others. And that, my friend, is what I think is truly great, is when you're able to lead by example, and motivate others to walk in your footsteps and try to work hard and be better. That's the greatness.
Yep.
100%. You know what I mean? It's not about being the most popular.
Exactly.
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 You know what I mean? And but we measure so many people measure our success on that. We compare to others. That's where, every human being is a unique individual.
Yeah. That's where social media gets dangerous too, because I mean, that's the easiest way to get lost in the sauce, man. You start looking at what other people are doing on there and start measuring yourself up to what somebody else is doing. But yeah, you know, yeah, don't fear your own greatness, man. Just be great. Just be great.
Also, it's like, you know, you can't really compare yourself to somebody unless you guys are both starting from the same exact spot. This is not a race. Like if someone who comes from a much different situation than me and is starting 1,000 yards ahead of me, how am I comparing it to? Like, we have a totally different path.
Exactly. That's the key. It's we all have our own path. I say it on the record, the F.O.G. I say my path was predestined from the day that I was born. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stay ready, so there's nothing to prepare for, because my path was predestined from the day that I was born. Like, my path is my path, and your path is your path. So there's really, you really are not supposed to be worrying about what that person is doing over there. I mean, if it inspires you, if you're going to take something positive from it or something that you shouldn't do, that's different. But like, you're not supposed to be really looking over there, because this is your path over here, you know?
Yeah. And so many people fall victim to envy. You know, they see someone successful on the outside. They don't know what that person has maybe done or been through or what it is, you know.
Facts. Heavy is the head, man.
And that will divide you, you know, and that will put you on the wrong course too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, man.
So that's what it's, and that's the message of the project, man. It's a 6-song EP. I produced like 2 joints on there. I co-produced another one. Shout out to the other producers, man. My bro Trench got game. He's from Boston, and he's one of my business partners in the stew as well. And then shout out to the homie Steve Skyline out of North Carolina, and then my other homie D Professor. He's from Kansas City. Super dope producer, man. So yeah, man. Thanks to everybody that's been supporting it thus far.
Shout out all the producers. Shout out all the producers. You make the wonderful world of hip hop go around.
Yes, we need you. You know, but yeah, the project's available everywhere now. You know, but I dropped it initially exclusively on Bandcamp, and that's what I'm pushing more than anything. So you can support it at motivatemerren.bandcamp.com. You know, that's the best way to support me as an artist. You know what I'm saying? That's where we get the good revenue share. You know what I'm saying? So push that. But if you do want to stream it, go ahead, man. It's everywhere. But if you want to buy it from me at Bandcamp.
Yes, any support would be great. Mark, it's been a great conversation. You know, it's always good talking with a fellow colleague.
Yes,
in this crazy rap game.
I gotta say this before we get out of here, just because this is documented. This is the first time I'm on your podcast, but I have to say this to everybody, because we've never had this conversation before, but there was a time, you know, when I first started doing, you know, being heavy on the showcases, I always felt like people were trying to pit me and you against each other, or like I was like the antithesis of, you know what I'm saying, of what Leedz does as a business person. And what a lot of people didn't know. I mean, granted, like, it wasn't, you know, we never were fake friends, right? Like, I think over the years we built a rapport based off of business and, you know, whatever. And it's been genuine, you know, it's always been organic. We never faked it. But I think a lot of people didn't know that we would actually talk behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I had a question about anything, I could be like, yo, what was, you know, how did this work? And you never hesitated to tell me some shit. You never withheld any information from me, or, you know, did any, you know, funny shit. And, you know, I think at sometimes I probably let that get into my head, you know, without knowing you. But then once I got to know you, I was like, nah, man, it's cool. But I just wanted to say that because I always thought that it was, you know, it was funny, because it's just like, man, he's doing what, and I always said that. I'm like, he's doing the right thing as a businessman. He's doing whatever he's doing, you know, and I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And, you know,
I always really appreciate and respected what you did, because, you know, I would get a lot of heat from the local scene because they wanted to me to book them. And I just couldn't book everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
in the pay for play thing.
Yeah.
People didn't understand the logistics of how things really, you know, really work. And I chose not to do it because my lane was different. You were bringing international touring acts sometimes 3 times in a month.
How more than that sometimes?
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. Like on average, like at least 3 times a month. How in the fuck are you gonna do that? Like from a business standpoint, I quickly understood. I'm like, no, like he's doing the right thing. And then furthermore, it weeds out who's serious. Like if I could book everybody I like a lot of people who don't take their craft serious. Like, there's some people that are really incredible, but they're never gonna really do anything unless I book them for a show, and then that's it. I book you for a show, and then you just did a show, you know.
Yeah,
so, I always respect, and I had to use that business model.
Yeah, I didn't use it because I was trying to be greedy. I used it for survival. Yeah, and I'll just say this because I've talked about this before. You know, like I had artists sell tickets on shows because I had to, because the financial insecurity of those situations, and you know, as a promoter, is so stressful. It was making sure the show was happening because the headliners were charging a lot of money, and B, it leveled the playing field about who was serious.
Yep.
You know, it was about, can you bring a crowd in? There's a lot of money on the line. And that's the way I had to run it for a long. And then eventually I stopped doing that in my last couple of years.
Yep, you did.
Doing it. Yeah. The last couple of years.
I benefited off that. You put me on a couple of shows through.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, you know, and I can tell you I didn't make any money, you know, doing that. But it's, but I was at least able to book the shows the last couple of years and curate them the way I want to.
Yeah.
But, you know, back to you, you know, it was always a hot topic, and no one ever, you know, you ever felt one way or another way about it. And what I realized is I just needed to step away from that controversy because I was being judged strictly on that. And there was more to me than having artists sell tickets on the show. I was doing a better thing, but I was always going to be that pay to play guy if I kept doing it. So I just said, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
But back to you is like, I always wanted other promoters to do well. I wasn't trying to be, as far as independent promoters, I was competitive with the big boys, but independent promoters, I wanted to do well because I was A, one of them. B, we needed more of them. And if I could help in any way and we needed more promoters to open up more opportunities to book more artists. Yep. So for you, I was like, whatever you need, Mark, like I support you, you know, 110%. I wasn't looking at it like this is my competition at all. You know what I mean? And I was just like, this guy is doing something different than me. And we need this, and we need more guys like him doing it. So
yeah,
let's go. Yeah. You know, that's why I salute the showcase, because I'm like, I would never have been able to do that. Yeah. That was a skill that you had. I couldn't do.
Yeah.
I tried it. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, dude. You know what I mean? So like, that's a special skill, you know, and like, yeah, you know, if anybody got salty back then, I mean, I understand, but you know.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. I mean, but the bottom line, that was all bullshit because everybody still respected it, you know. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you know, so it is what it is. But I figured I'd bring that up because it was.
I was waiting for that. I was like, I'm surprised we weren't talking about that earlier, but you know. Boston, we struggle with this, though. We struggle with everybody being competitive too much with each other.
Yes.
We're like, oh, you know, it's a battle for greatness.
Yeah, even if it is competitive, you know, like even if it is, I mean, bottom line is, you know, we should be able to talk shop off the court, right? Like, you know, we're on the court, we're gonna battle, but we should be able to, you know, and I appreciate that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that I'd be able to hit you up on some simple shit like, yo, can I go to this show for free? Bet, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Shit like that. Yo, I need this information. Like, how much did this, you know, like, how much, you know, what, and vice versa. Who do you think is a popping artist? You've hit me with that before. Like, who on the scene, you know, right now, you know, I know you work with more of these artists. Who's who? You know, so to be able to, you know, have an alliance, you know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to make it clear. A lot of people didn't know that we spoke more behind the scenes than
the misconception you know, being a promoter, there's a whole giant misconception anyway.
Yeah,
you know, we're villainized automatically because hip-hop is villainized promoters. And don't get me wrong, there's some promoters out there that should be villainized, but you know, we were trying to do the right thing, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, we could have done something else that paid us more.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And I'll just end it.
I say that shit all the time. I'm like, y'all bugging. Like, you know how much money I lost? Shit.
Yeah, me too. So, well, Mark, this is great, man. And just remind everybody, 38 special this Sunday.
Yes,
at the Middle East downstairs.
Yes.
Motivate Merren, Fear of God out now.
Fear of Greatness, man.
Fear of God. I'm so sorry. Someone had a Fear of God album. Who had the Fear of God album? Is that Steel Gold? I don't know. Fear of Greatness. I'm sorry.
Shout out to them, man. I know that Quali show is coming up too, man. I know
that's next week, Quali. And yeah, man. Always great talking to you, Mark. And we'll talk soon.
Yep. Bless up, man. Peace.
Take care. Peace.